Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to This is Mappa. And I know what people are going to say straight away. What the fuck is going on? What's going on? Why are you doing This is Mappa at 12:30 in the afternoon in the UK? Why? Well, listen, I've got things to do. I'm a busy person. And unfortunately, my partner in crime, El Diablo, Mr. Thasso, is unavailable because he's busy. He's got a life. He's got a job to do. Caseros, as they say. So I'm doing this on my ones. Can you believe it? Can you, Adam and Eve it? Well, look, before we kick off the review, which hopefully it's not going to be a long one this week, please visit our sponsors, foodfromcyprus.com. Use the code NCN12 for a 12% discount at checkout. And every time you make a purchase with the code, you get entered into a prize draw where you can win the opportunity to win a few nights at Airbnb in Nicosia. So you can go anytime after Christmas. As Tasso says, there's a cup final in May or April or whenever they decide to do it. Get your ticket for the game and you got somewhere to stay in it, bruv. Also, I would like to say thank you to another one of our sponsors, Ask Printing House. There you go, our friend Ask Printing House, Muffa's company. They do everything. They print on mugs, on cups, t-shirts, wallets, your bum, everything. They're fantastic. They're great at what they do. Support a good cause. Go to Ask Printing House on Facebook and support the local businesses in Cyprus. That would be great. There you go. There you go. So I've got 4 people watching live, apparently. If anyone wants to jump on, there is a link right here. It's an open forum. I don't want to just talk about OMONOIA, boys and girls. Yeah, because this is Mappa. It's not just about OMONOIA, even though it's NCN network. Let's talk protathlima. Let's talk Cypriot football. And the first game I'm going to cover is Ajax 2-0 victory over DOXA. Goals from Jalma and Baba Fodi, giving Tony Koskela a much-needed win. APOEL have been in a lot of trouble the past few weeks. 3 defeats on the bounce. And facing DOXA, they had to win. They had to win. You can't not beat DOXA. This is a team that has lost 13 games out of their last 14 this season. And that's just the league. You know, include the cup. That's 14 defeats in 15 games and 1 draw. It's terrible. And yes, it's going to be a victory that's going to help the morale of APOEL for sure, for sure. And now they've got the victory. They're, 9th in the table. And look, at the end of the day, Koskela can only work with what he's got. It looks like they're going to have a transfer embargo. Apparently, they were $500,000 to Silas and Casa together. So January doesn't look like they're going to be able to sign any players. So he's going to have to play with the hand that he's been dealt with. And whether he likes it or not, this is Cyprus. This is how things work. And I'm pretty sure he'd have done his due diligence on the club before he even joined them. I highly doubt many head coaches would look at clubs anywhere around the world and not show any kind of interest or try and find out what they're all about. But the fact is, this is a club that is in a massive transition. We know they've been trying to sell for a while now. They had loads of injuries last season. I'm pretty sure they've been a little bit iffy as well with the injury list this season. But look, they've got players that can keep them up. I thought they were going to get relegated at the start of the season. When I saw the squad and the head coach at the time, I thought this lot are going to be going down. But fortunately for them, there are teams below them that are worse. That being said, if you look at the way that KARMIOTISSA have been playing lately, and I'm going to go into them in just a bit, if you look at the way that OTHELLOS have been playing, ARIS, especially even ETHNIKOS, there is a strong chance that APOEL might slip down into that relegation zone. You just never know. But they need to keep winning these games. They need to beat the teams below them. If they do that, they stay up. It's pretty simple. But the fact is, as you guys know, when the league splits at the end of the 26 and you got Group B, that's when it becomes sticky. That's when it becomes every game is going to be a flipping cup final. Now, last season, we saw ANORTHOSIS how they survived by absolutely pamming everyone in their path. And DOXA survived just about. Paralimni went down. Olympiago went down. Look, I'm not saying that APOEL are too big to go down, but when you look at that group of players, you think they're going to be good enough to at least finish 9th or 8th at this rate anyway. DOXA, on the other hand, look, I can't put my finger on exactly what's going wrong. You look at their squad, they've got some very, very good players. You know, Sadiq obviously is a big goal scorer. Ernest Asante is another one. But if you look at the type of goals that they concede, especially at the weekend, they can't defend. They cannot defend. And the fact is, boys and girls, if you don't keep clean sheets or if you can't keep the score to a minimal, you're fucked. It's pretty simple. Now, you could argue that they brought in a lot of players over the summer, but at the same time, every club has done that. So where is the problem? Where is the problem? Is it managerial changes? Well, they've already sacked one, or is it two that they sacked this season? I can't remember. Are they on their third? I don't know. But it just seems that sacking managers ain't obviously the main issue. There are many issues for DOXA. But at the end of the day, it looks like right now, bottom of the table, 1 point after 14 games, they're done. They're done. There's no way they stay up. And if they stay up, it'll be a miracle. Utter miracle. So, yeah, I wish them all the best, but I don't know, man. I think that's it. That's it for them. I honestly think that it's that I can't even get my words. I think that's done and dusted for them. Anyway, let's move on to the next game. And I believe, if my memory serves me correct, yep, it's APOLLON going to Othello. Managerless APOLLON beating Othello by 3-0. 2 goals from Valbuena, 1 from Abdurrahimi. APOLLON remain in 7th on 22 points. But as I said, no manager. But a controversial penalty was given there. I'm not too sure about that one. It looked a bit of a sticky one. But it was given. And listen, we've seen penalties given for less in Cyprus. So, yeah, I guess he'll be happy. And I don't know what the goalkeeper was doing with this one. The ball played back to him, and he's played it straight to Abdurrahim, who's put the ball in the back of there. And this isn't the first time Othello's goalkeeper has done something like this season. He did it, in fact, 2 weeks ago against Buffalo, trying to build from the back, playing it out straight to a Buffalo player who scored. So these are mistakes that Othello are making week in, week out, which are harming them, clearly. They're second from bottom. Now, they've lost their last 3 games. Again, it's looking tricky for them, but they're one of the newly promoted teams. So I can't really shit on them, in all fairness, because at least they're giving it a go. They're going into every game trying to win, whether it be to the detriment of their results. It is what it is. But APOLLON have got it very, very difficult at the moment. And when you look at how they were at the beginning of the season, the draws, a couple of losses, and then they sacked their head coach, and they brought in Milojevic, and Milojevic turned things around, albeit briefly. And all of a sudden, 1 loss, 2 losses, 3 losses, done. You're done. You're done. Now, whoever comes in at APOLLON has got a massive job. And this is something that we said last week. They've got a decent squad. But when I look at that squad, do I see a squad that is good enough to get top 6? I don't see it. I really don't see it. I thought Marquez was going to be top goal scorer this season. I ain't going to lie. The way that he started his APOLLON career, I thought he was going to be top goal scorer this season. But then when you look at all the teams above them, even AEK now that are doing very, very well under Ben Shimon, when you look at the squad man for man, can anyone here see APOLLON getting into the top 6? I can't see where the majority of their goals are going to come from now. I mean, Kremenchik is a decent striker, and he's been scoring goals recently. I mean, he's grabbed a couple against ETHNIKOS. We saw Valbuena scoring twice. Abdurrahimi obviously got on the score sheet. So they've got players that can score them a few goals. But are they a scary proposition? Because I look at them in the midfield and I see, okay, you got Hambo and you got Kol, who are clearly their 2 standout players in the middle of the park. They're the 2 obvious choices. Kostaki on the right-hand side, pretty decent. Left-hand side, Abdurrahimi or Valbuena, whoever plays there. But the back line is pretty iffy. Pretty iffy. And Perbenz is a very good defender. Iqbalo is a good defender, but there's mistakes there. The goalkeeper has kept them in games as far as I'm concerned. So whoever comes in, there was talk about the German fella coming in from Augsburg. He didn't do it. I heard a little story that a English head coach applied for the job and they turned him down despite his credentials being absolutely superb. So what's the plan? What is the plan for APOLLON? Are they going to wait until January to make a new head coach arrival? I don't know. I mean, the next 3 games, they've got Salamina next. That's not going to be easy. KARMIOTISSA away. The way that KARMIOTISSA has been playing lately, that ain't going to be easy. And then APOEL on the 2nd of January. Now, in an ideal world for them, they'll get those 3 games out of the way and have a head coach brought in for the AL game, which is going to be away from home, by the way, on the 6th of January. Then it's ARI. They're not going to be the 2 games that a new head coach would really want to start. If you think about it, 2 derbies. Then there's DOXA, ARIS, and PAFOS. So what kind of head coach are they going to bring? I don't know. They're clearly going to need a head coach that comes in that can bolster a team, that can stop them from conceding goals, because at the beginning of the season, we were saying that they got one of the best defensive records. But now, I mean, how many goals have they conceded this season? Up to 12 goals conceded this season, which ain't bad in comparison to other teams. I think OMONOIA and ARIS have conceded more than them. AEK as well, sorry. But if you're serious about getting into the top 6 and at least trying to compete for European football, you need to shore up defensively and start scoring at the other end. Now, at this moment in time, they're only a point behind top 6. And if you want to talk about the title, they're 10 points behind APOEL. European places, 7 points behind OMONOIA and ARIS. Now, 7 points is nothing at this stage of the season, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, there are problems. There are problems at this club. And if Girzi is trying to sell the club as well, that's another thing. I don't know, man. It's a tricky one. It's a very, very tricky one. But let's see. Let's see. Anyway, on to the next game, boys and girls. Who's next? Roll up, roll up. Yes, ETHNIKOS losing 1-0 to ANORTHOSIS. And Kasama with the winner. That's all the highlights I'm going to put up for you, because a lot happened during this game if you want to talk about chances. But right at this moment in time, I look at ANORTHOSIS, who is sat in 5th on 28 points, only a point behind 2nd place. And with all the injuries that they've had this season, with all the shenanigans going on off the field, especially at board level, which seem to have died down. It's only really their finances that they're worried about. And I don't know if they're going to get an embargo for January. I don't know. But at this moment in time, they're in a healthy position. And if you think about it, for a team to have so many injuries, yet still grinding out victories, you got to take them serious. And you got to give Gallejo his flowers. For a head coach to lose his star attacking midfielder and Guerrero, to lose his best left back, Fran Garcia, to lose his central defender, Salva Ferrer, for the rest of the season, and I hope he gets better soon. Chico Panthavs, he's suspended at the weekend. You know, the centre forward not scoring enough goals, Stel. But you got Kasama up front, and Waris, Tasso's best mate, has been doing very well. Wagre is injured. So the injuries are totting up, but yet they're still grinding out these results. And you know what? I'm not even going to say that they're dark horses for the title. I don't want to give that kind of prediction. But at the same time, you cannot rule out this team. Despite all of the injuries, all of the bullshit going on off the field, they're still up there. And if there isn't a transfer embargo, January, they might bring in 2 or 3 players. And then it's up, isn't it? It's absolutely up. But what about ETHNIKOS? ETHNIKOS are doing their thing, aren't they? Sitting 10th in the table. I don't think they're too concerned about relegation or anything like that at the moment. The fact is, though, when Mario Elia isn't scoring or isn't firing on all cylinders, they're struggling. They really are struggling. So I'm not sure what this season has to offer for them in terms of any kind of challenge to move up the table. I'm pretty sure that's where they're gonna be. But I think Mario Mercedes, who's the press officer, he released some statement about Elia, because apparently Mario Elia is linked with a move to a Greek Super League club. I think it was on the Stella Socrates show this morning. And he was saying, you know, it's a bit disappointing to concede goals last minute like they did against APOLLON the other week. And he gave AEK their flowers because they're facing AEK next. And obviously they're not satisfied with dropping points and conceding goals in the dying moments. But this is something that obviously is going to show character. But apparently there's no clause in the contract or the agreement between ETHNIKOS and OMONOIA for Banayi to send him back to OMONOIA. So, you know, there's nothing in the agreement to say that he can go back. But if something needs to happen for Banayi to go back to OMONOIA due to injuries in goal, I'm sure that something can be arranged. And as for Mario Elia, he says, I don't have anything in mind. Nothing's going on, but we're open to discussions with any team that wants him. So they're clearly willing to sell the guy, which for me is absolutely bonkers. That being said, do they think they can get a decent amount for him? and spend that money wisely? I don't know. I don't know. What do you lot think, man? What do you lot think? How do you think ETHNIKOS are going to do without Mariolia if he leaves? I think they'll struggle big time. There we go. There's a comment here. Hi, Stel, APOEL is broke, but their winning mentality is different. Andre, we're going to go into APOEL in just a bit, bro. Just a bit. But if you guys want to comment on any other teams, what do you think of ANORTHOSIS? Do you think they're going to be in with a shout for the title? What about APOLLON? They're going to turn things around. Can AX sustain their good form at the moment? Loads of questions that Stel is asking. And no one likes questions. Anyway, next game. So, KARMIOTISSA. I was going to say traveled to Buffalo, but they're sharing the same bloody stadium. They played Buffalo, and despite an onslaught from Buffalo, and I say onslaught because Buffalo were pamming them. They were knocking at the door, even though the goalkeeper wasn't really made to work. They were creating half chances. But 2 goals from Gazzaniodi. This player, I don't know where they found him from. I don't know where he came from. Was he from the youth academy? I need to check this one out. I don't know where he came from. But I'll tell you what, he's been getting goals from lately. And 2 goals against Buffalo. Buffalo got consolation at the end through Tumasi. And KARMIOTISSA are back to life. They're on 10 points. 1 point behind ARIS. 3 behind ETHNIKOS. And they got OMONOIA at the weekend. Now, there isn't really any news to break from KARMIOTISSA. We don't know what's going on with their ownership situation. Punin sold. No one knows who the buyer is. No one knows who the new owner of the club is. At this moment in time, I don't think their players or the fans will care. Fans, I'm trying to use that word, the plural sense. I don't know how many fans they got. They probably don't have that many. But I don't think they'll care if the club is still getting victories, especially against the likes of Buffalo. Now, as I said, Buffalo didn't really create too much, even though they were knocking at the door, passing the ball around, creating spaces. But I can't remember the KARMIOTISSA goalkeeper having many saves to make, in all fairness. Bruno Felipe had a couple of shots outside the box. Jara had the shot which hit the crossbar. But other than that, they didn't threaten KARMIOTISSA much. And this has got to be a concern for Buffalo because Thus always says that Buffalo aren't going to be title challengers. And I asked him a few weeks ago, if they win the next few games, what do you think? And he said, yeah. But Buffalo have got APOEL next. And when you lose against KARMIOTISSA at home, because it was at their stadium, even though it was a class as an away game, it was at their stadium, there's got to be cause for concern. Big cause for concern. And I can't make up my mind whether Buffalo will be title contenders or not. Because they might go on a really good run of form and win. I mean, what they won 4 on the bounce before this game. They won 4 on the bounce prior to the KARMIOTISSA game. And then they play against KARMIOTISSA and they lose 2-1. So it's the inconsistency. And that's got to be a major, major concern for them. That being said, they've only conceded 9 goals this season. And they're scoring. But they've dropped points, needless points this season. I believe anyway. They lost to APOEL, 1-0 away from home. They didn't create anything. 1 header which went over the bar, and I think a shot that went wide. Against OMONOIA, hardly threatened. ARIS, all right, they got a draw. They got a good draw there. But apart from that, they haven't... I don't know. I mean, they've battered teams like DOXA and ETHNIKOS. But is that something to gauge their title credentials? You need to do it against the big teams. You need to do it against your APOELs and OMONOIAs and ARIS and ANORTHOSIS. You need to do it against them. And yeah, they beat ANORTHOSIS 1-0. But this is an ANORTHOSIS team full of injuries. So I think it's a sticky one for Buffalo. Clearly, they've got the players to mount a charge. Jairo, last season's top goal scorer. Bruno, as much as I don't rate him, he can do a job in Cyprus. Tankovic has been brilliant. Valakari, brilliant. Nam, brilliant. Ikoko, right back, brilliant. But how can they not get it right? How are they not top of the league? Okay, fine. It's only 3 points difference. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's been a disastrous season for them. They're only 3 points off the top. But then you look at those 3 points, and on one hand, you think, yeah, it's only 3 points. And if they beat APOEL at the weekend, the joint top. That being said, you look at those 3 points, and they actually look pretty big. They actually look pretty big when you see the inconsistency of Buffalo this season. That being said, I can't rule them out. Because you can never rule out any club in that top 6 at the moment. Can't rule any of them out. Because the gap is so narrow. And okay, and I know we just completed the first half of the season, and there's still second half of the season to go, and then the playoffs. That is when it gets proper interesting. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and rule Buffer out, but at the same time, I can't 100% say they're going to be in and around, if that makes sense. Anyway, on to the next game. Let's see who we've got now. Ah, yes. AEK beating ARI by 2-1. And I'll tell you what, there's always goals in these games, isn't it? There's always goals in this game. Urosevic gave ARI the lead before Fransol made it 1 apiece. His penalty had to be retaken. I mean, that's a clear as day penalty. I'm sorry. I know I've got my soft spot for ARI, but you can't be doing that. You can't be doing that. Booting your opponent. And Fransol's penalty was saved, but unfortunately, Van Alves stepped off his line before the penalty was taken. So referee said, no, retake it. And Fransol said, safe. Let's put it in the same corner. 1 apiece. And then Kazu, one of the most reliable players for ARI past few seasons, puts the ball in the back of his own net. Second half was a formality. Last 15 minutes, ARI didn't do much to threaten AEK, and AEK leave with the points. Happy days for them. Happy days for new head coach Ben Shimon. AEK have now won 3 out of their last 4 games since Ultra was sacked. They're now in the top 6, 23 points, 5 points behind ANORTHOSIS. And they're playing with a certain verve, aren't they? They're playing with a certain arrogance, I'd say, on the ball. You're seeing a lot more from Gyushko, from Faraj. Dongi is doing well. The back line seems to be a lot more solid than it was. Ledes looks like the player that he was last season. Fransol obviously getting on the score sheet, and yet they still got Tryskovsky and Rafa Lopez to come off the bench. Last season was a fantastic season for AEK. No shadow of a doubt. And building on such a successful season is very, very difficult in Cyprus because the level of expectancy goes up. And as everyone that's watching this, that's aware and knows the Cypriot League, once a manager achieves something in Cyprus, he's expected to do the same, if not more, the following season. And Ultra was a victim of his own success. Now, Ben Shimon has come in. We know his pedigree. We know that he coached the national team. We know he's coached AEK before. So he knows the league, as they say, as what people always say to me when a new head coach comes in at OMONOIA. Oh, he knows the league. It's important that he knows the league. Okay, he knows the league. Fine. I get it. Okay. I'm just interested to see what happens when the honeymoon period is over. I'm interested to see what happens to AEK Larnaca when they get a defeat. Because they got ETHNIKOS at the weekend, then it's DOXA. So I'm seeing 6 points out of the next 6 games. Then they got OTHELLOS. I'm seeing 9 points out of the next 3 games. Then it's ARIS. So again, if you're looking at stats and you're looking at their form, okay, granted, you could say that DOXA is the final game before Christmas and they don't come back until the 3rd of January. And there's like, what, 12 days? 22nd is their next game. So you've got 22nd, so it's 9 days plus the 3, yeah. So it's 12 days. Then it's ARIS on the 8th before Salamina and then Buffer. So the big game coming up for them is on the 20th of January against Buffer. You'd think that given the form, and if you don't think about injuries or suspensions, and let's just say they have a clean bill of health for all of these games, you'd think the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, you're going to get 15 points. You'd think. But this is the Cypriot League. This is a protathlon, and teams take points off each other all the time. ETHNIKOS might get something at the weekend. I don't see it, but they might do. What I will say for ETHNIKOS, the Dasagi pitch is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. You can't even grow potatoes on it. That's how bad it is. So maybe that will work to their advantage. Then I face DOXA. Can't see DOXA getting anything out of it. But then again, last season, Agrida ended up getting a draw against AEK. And AEK needed a goal in the last 4 minutes to get something out of it. So let's not get it twisted. While these things are looking good in their favor, we've seen teams fuck up, especially them fuck up in the past. Then it's Othello away. And Othello have been giving teams problems. In fact, didn't AEK lose to... They didn't lose to them, did they? I can't remember. I can't remember if they lost to Othello. Let me just check my stats here. 1 minute. Let's have a look. They played Othello. They beat them 3-2 at home. They beat Othello 3-2 at home. But it was ARIS where they lost 3-1. So while AEK have got a good team and their players are in form, you just never know. You just never know. As for ARI, well, ARI clearly have got Europe on their mind. They've got a big European match tonight against Sparta Prague. If they win this, and there's a chance that they end up in the Conference League. Now, to ARI's credit, they're still in and around the title hunt despite the European matches. Because don't forget, they had Champions League qualification, then Europa League qualification, and obviously these random European games. And up until recently, in fact, I'd say the recent 3 or 4 years, Cypriot teams have found it very, very difficult to cope with European football and domestic football. And actually, AEK were an anomaly. But you saw how their season fell off because of that European campaign. And that's always bound to happen. Now, ARI have got a better squad. They've got a deeper squad and a more equipped squad than AEK. So it doesn't surprise me that ARI are still in and around the title hunt, but they have been dropping silly points. They have been losing games in positions where you think that they could come back and get points. And it seems to me that while they are wonderful to watch, they're pleasing on the eye. Attacking football, attacking football, attacking football. Sometimes you're looking at them and you're thinking, can you close a game off just by adding an extra defender? Is this something that Shpilevsky likes to do? Does he want to play safety first? Because for me, while his system is brilliant, and I cannot knock him, because they've got the players to play the system that he needs, and it's been working to perfection. But the injuries are mounting up. We saw Gomis get injured and he's come back. I don't know about Bambika. I don't know if he played at the weekend. Let me check, see if he played at the weekend. I'm not 100% sure in all fairness. I know I picked up an injury against Glasgow Rangers. But Montnor started. Bambika, no, he wasn't even on the bench. So he's still injured. Now, are they saving him for tonight's game? I don't know. Not sure. But the fact is, ARI have got a strong a squad strong enough to still compete. And it's a good thing for them. And don't forget, January's coming, and they're not a team to be frugal. If they need to bring in reinforcements, they'll do it. If they see 1 or 2 players going on international duty, they might bring in a couple of loans. Or they might use some of the younger players that perhaps haven't been given opportunities yet. You know? And given that they're the champions, given the depth of their squad, they'll be there. They'll be there. I mean, think about it. If Bengtson's unavailable, they got Montnor. If Zoke can't play, they got Nikolic. Or they got Morgan Brown. Szymanski has been brilliant, by the way. Szymanski, the youngster, he's been absolutely brilliant for him. And I'll tell you what, I'll give it 3 or 4 years, he'll be playing in the Bundesliga or one of these big European leagues. Maybe not a massive club, but at a decent level. I think he's a very, very good player. So you never know. You never know. Anyway, let's move on. Next game. OMONOIA go to Salamina. 2-0 victory. 3rd win on the bounce. And playing a style of football which I'm very, very impressed with. And if you are a member of the channel, you will see the analysis I did yesterday of the victory and how OMONOIA beat Salamina in a style of football that I haven't seen us play for quite a while. Goals from Semedo and Gusula give us a victory. Alium had a goal disallowed for offside, rightly or wrongly. I'm not going to go into that because everyone else has spoken about it. Personally, I think the lines were drawn wrong. But listen, we won the game. I couldn't care less. Doragaray had a goal disallowed for offside. It should have been a foul and offside anyway. But it is what it is. But what I was saying on the analysis video yesterday, as I said, go back to it because you'll see it in depth. The opening half, OMONOIA realised that Salamina were going to defend deep, 2 banks of 4. And the build-up play, the patient football, it was a joy to behold. There were numerous moments where OMONOIA strung 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 passes. In fact, there was an opportunity from Bezos that he put wide. It was actually easier to score than it was to miss. They strung 22 passes before that opportunity. So Omonia did play with a certain verve first half, and once they went a goal ahead, it was a case of, well, come at us, Salamina. And come at us they did, and Francis Rojo made some fantastic saves, kept Omonia in the game, got our man of the match for no shoulders anyway, and then Total Green gave it to him. So obviously he did something right. Obviously we saw something that others didn't. But it was a convincing win. And it's very rare to say that going to Salamina and beating them 2-0 is a convincing win, because Salamina is always going to be a difficult game, always a difficult place to go to. So as an Omonia fan, I'm absolutely through with the result. And it's KARMIOTISSA at the weekend next. Now, as for Salamina, I'm sure they'll be disappointed that I didn't get anything out of this game. That's 2 defeats on the bounce. They're winless in 3. And while they're sat in 8th and APOEL are only 3 points behind them, I think there's a little bit of worry creeping into this Salamina team. Sergio hasn't been the player that he was last season. Hardly featured this season. And might be injuries, I'm not sure. Didn't play at the weekend. Leoko, the right back, is absolutely terrible. Konate at the back is decent. Miguelito is coming off the bench, but he hasn't been effective much. Dora Garay has been carrying them, to be honest. Akite's been good. Narsing, I'm not too sure what to make of him since he's come to the team. Sometimes he had good games. Sometimes he had bad games. At the weekend, he was anonymous. Durmishai is a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but he struggled to get involved in the game. Korama came on, and yes, he's strong. Yes, he's quick, but he's erratic. And I'm not sure, again, what to make of this Salamina team. Clearly, they've got their weaknesses, and clearly they've got their strengths. From set pieces, they're fantastic. But against Omonia at the weekend, they were anonymous from set pieces. Aside from the header from Dora Garay, which was disallowed, I can't remember them threatening Omonia much. Now, is it a cause for concern? I wouldn't say so. But at the same time, you know what Cypriot football is like. 1 week, you could be beating a team and going on a good run. 3 or 4 weeks later, you lose a game and then it starts falling apart. Now, Salamina have got APOLLON away next. And I'm pretty sure APOLLON will have their tails up after the victory last week. That being said, Salamina have been to Alpha Mega before this season, and they almost got a draw against ARIS. So what kind of Salamina are we going to see? Interesting one, isn't it? You don't know whether you're going to see a Salamina team that's going to be so organized, compact, and hit teams on the counter-attack and be a threat in aerial battles, which is what APOLLON are weak at, by the way. Or are we going to see Salamina, like we saw last weekend and the weekend before against Buffalo, where defenders were overcommitting, being pulled out of position and letting strikers get in behind them the way that Jairo did, the way that Semedo did? Now, if you're Marquez or Kremenchik or Valbuena or even Abdurrahimi, you're looking at that back line and you're thinking, yeah, they've got 2 banks of 4, but we can get in behind them with a bit of movement. And we know that Valbuena is great on the ball. We know that Abdurrahimi's movement is good. So I actually personally believe this will be one of the best games of the weekend, in all fairness. So keep an eye on that one. APOLLON against Salamina. Anyway, on to the... Oh, actually, no, there's a comment here. Salamina were unexpectedly shite because against Omonia they become prime Barcelona. Well, look, they did the double over Omonia last season, didn't they? So they're no mugs. And we know that there's a little bit of spikiness between the supporters. I'm not going to go into that. But Salamina always a difficult game. It is what it is. But I'm interested to see how the game against APOLLON goes, in all fairness, because, yeah, you've got 2 teams that are struggling a little bit, and it's down to who wants it more. And I think right now, Salamina need it more than APOLLON. I honestly believe it. So, anyway, it is what it is. Right, next game. Is this the final one? Excuse me, it's just burped. Yeah, it's the final one. So, APOEL beating ARIS by 3-1. They remain top, 3 points clear of Omonia and ARIS. Villafañez gave them the lead before Antonio equalized. Marquinhos made it 2-1, and then Dalcio finished it off in stoppage time. To be honest, guys, it was a far more convincing victory than it looked, in all fairness. APOEL could have had 5 or 6. Now, despite all the shit that's going on with them off the field, as Andrea said, their winning mentality is a different level. It's a different level. And I think it goes back to something that I said to Thasso maybe on the last episode. I think it might have even been on No Choftas the other day with Roy. When you're a team and you're going through such adversity, it's either going to make you, it's going to break you. Some clubs fall apart and the players down tools and they can't be bothered. Some clubs, like these lot, it galvanizes them. And it's given them the impetus and the motivation to go forward, despite all the nonsense going on off the field. And let's get it right here. I think, personally, because a lot of these players aren't APOEListas, they're not APOEL fans, they're not taking it to heart. So what happens off the field? They probably don't even know half the shit that goes on off the field. Perhaps their agents tell them, I don't know. Perhaps they hear a few things from fans, I don't know. But it just seems to me that a lot of these players are just focused on doing the job. And that's all you can ask for. Honestly, that is all you can ask for from your players. Now, if the team wasn't doing well, you'd see fans saying, oh, they don't care about the club. They don't love the club. They don't care if we go downhill, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think any APOEL player has given their fans something to moan about. Okay, Thasso's going to say that he doesn't rate Shebak. He doesn't rate whoever players he doesn't rate. Kvili Daya, I don't think Kvili Daya's been doing well. Well, he doesn't think Kvili Daya's been doing well. I think Kvili Daya's been doing what he can, in all fairness. And I've always said, don't rule this guy out because he's a proven goal scorer. Yes, he's injury prone. Yes, we've seen it. But he's a handful off the ball. He's an utter handful. And every defender hates playing against him. I'll tell you this. He backs into him. He's physical. He is exactly the type of striker that is needed to win a league in Cyprus. Because while he might not score goals, he'll cause havoc in the box. You tell me a striker in the league that's got a physical presence up top like he does. You could say Kremenchik, but he's injury prone just as much. And his head drops. Gyro, and he scores goals. I think Kvili Daya offers more than Gyro off the ball. That's my honest opinion. And I think he's a good player. He's a good player. I just think he's been unlucky with injuries. If this is a Kvili Daya that's on form, he's hitting 12, 15 goals a season. And with the chances that they create, yeah. So all the shit that happens to them off the field, you got to credit their players for just fighting through it, knowing that they may not get paid at the end of the month or may get it in arrears in a few months' time. You just never know. But again, I guess on the flip side, it's an opportunity for them to win the league, try and qualify for the Champions League, which I don't think they would, because qualifying for the Champions League is now on impossible these days if you're a club from Cyprus or any other obscure league. But it's an opportunity to showcase your talent in the qualifiers, as they did against, was it Ghent, earlier on in the season? And they gave a good display of themselves, especially away from home, in all fairness. So I guess that's one of the reasons why these players are playing out their skin. Win the league or qualify for Europe, try to showcase their talent on the European stage and get a move. That's how it works. It's that simple. Anyway, shall we talk about what happened with the Orange Legacy podcast with Manidara, with Petridis? Because it's a shame that Thasso can't make this episode, because I'm sure he's got his own take on things, and I'm sure next week he will have something to say about it, because obviously, as you guys know, shit happens in Cyprus that it literally is an overnight thing. But there are many things that were said on the podcast. First of all, what I will say is credit to the Orange Legacy for getting him on their pod. Now, I don't know what the agreement was to get him on. Perhaps they weren't allowed to ask certain questions. I watched about an hour and 20 minutes, so I missed the last 5 minutes. And you got to credit Petridis for having the balls to go on a podcast to speak so openly about things. But at the same time, I couldn't believe a lot of the stuff that I was hearing. Not that I'm calling him a liar. I'm just saying I just cannot believe the stuff that's coming out of his mouth. A club that's over 30 million in debt. Okay, we know about the debt. They haven't even raised 2 million euros for that scheme that they brought up a few weeks ago. You know, with the 20 euro tickets and the APOEL 500. They've just about raised 200 grand. That's got to be concerning. Apparently, there's an American investor Cypriot American investor that's willing to pay 50% of a new stadium. Great. That's great news. But then you look at the bigger picture. The club needs 600 grand to pay wages for terminated players. The club apparently needs 800 grand a month to survive. 800 grand a month to survive. And the fact that they are where they are, congratulations, because they're still in a relatively healthy position in the league. He said that he met with a Ukrainian investor and he didn't like the plan or the proposition that was sent his way because he doesn't want to do business with people that launder money. He wants the next person to come in to have a clean slate, clean background. Apparently, there was an offer made for the club a while back, and one of the strategies of the takeover was to ask fans for money. And he was basically saying, well, we're struggling to raise £1 million with over 1,000 ideas. Now, again, to his credit, he went on this pod and he explained himself the best way he could. It did seem very awkward, though. I'm not going to lie. It seemed like a very awkward pod because the original host, the guy on the left-hand side, I don't know his name, he was wearing the yellow shirt. He seemed to be more diplomatic and very professional with his questions. Whereas the guy in the middle, again, I don't know the guy. I'm not going to disrespect people. But it seemed that there was a bit of friction between him and PETRIDIS. I don't know the story. I don't know if anything happened. But it seemed that every time the guy that was co-hosting was saying something, PETRIDIS was cutting him off. And it did seem like a very, very awkward conversation. That's not to say it wasn't a good podcast. I think it was a very good podcast, to be honest. And for someone that doesn't watch a lot of Cypriot podcasts, it kept me entertained. Not just because I like hearing about the plight of the club, don't get me wrong. Sorry, Tasso. But it was interesting to hear what was being said. And I think this is the other thing that makes Cypriot football stand out more than a lot of the big leagues. If you had a club CEO of, say, Man United or Liverpool going on a podcast, which rarely happens, by the way. I don't know if that's ever happened. Has John Henry been on a podcast to talk about Liverpool or a fan podcast? I don't think so. But if they were to do it, they'd only answer certain questions and they tiptoe around certain things, and the hosts would brown nose them. They would, because they don't want to be on their bad side. But these guys, to their credit, they asked questions. And to PETRIDIS' credit, he answered them best way he could. That's the transparency you'll see. While you could say, yeah, it was bullshit, all the shit that he was saying, they gave him the platform, he accepted it, and he said what he had to say. Fair fucks to him. So if you haven't watched it yet, watch it. Watch it and see what you make of it. Let me know in the comments what you think of what's going on at that club. You know, as an OMONOIA fan, it's great to see them suffer. But if you're looking at it from a neutral perspective, it is very, very entertaining. It's an interesting scenario. And it's one where you're thinking, are they going to get out of it? How are they going to get out of it? How are they going to pull it off? Because none of the plans have been working, clearly. Not as well as they want them to. So, anyway, it is what it is. Now, I've gone on for 43 minutes. I can't really think of anything else to discuss when it comes to the protathlima, in all fairness. As I mentioned, Adi have got a European game tonight. Good luck to them. Good luck to them. I really hope that they can get a victory and get into the Conference League. But it'll be great to see a Cypriot team continue in Europe. What else is there? Carcedo, the Buffalo coach, got Coach of the Month, whatever that means. And that is pretty much it. There's literally no news in Cyprus. I'm actually quite surprised because every week we do like a 2-3 hour show and there's news and news and news and news. But this week there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. I mean, Tasso does his Vrionidis watch on what's it called, on Twitter. Let me bring them up actually, because Tasso is really good with the Vrionidis watch. Let's have a look, see what Vrionidis the guy has come up with. Right, so let me find it. Sorry, one moment, guys. One moment. Right, this is from Tasso's Twitter. Chico Bantha only has to pay a fine for punching the uncle. Okay. Tomovic got a fine for headbutting Chico Bantha. OMONOIA Aradipu other staff, Magriz has been fined for sending off for protesting intensely. And I need to talk about OMONOIA Aradipu, no disrespect. Hendy gets fined for a tackle against Aria. Yeah, that was a dirty one. You got a fine for that. ANORTHOSIS being fined for fans delaying the start of games by 5 minutes, invading the pitch. lighting 4 fires at the end of the game. Okay. And Ike got fined for bringing smoke bombs into the stadium. I don't know why I sound like surprised. Just don't sound surprised because these things happen in Cyprus. So, and after all that, they had the audacity to joke about. Yeah, explain that one, Andonimo. Explain that one for me, please. He also said about points deduction if you don't pay 1 million and 2. What is that? I missed that bit. Maybe I was taking a piss at the time. They're going to get a points deduction if they don't pay 1 million by the end of the month. I highly doubt they'll get a points deduction. Highly doubt. Highly doubt. Because if you think about it, and again, this isn't me with my OMONOIA cap on, the amount of unhappiness they've had with refereeing decisions and VAR this season, I'm pretty sure Petridis and Gumar have been talking. So don't be surprised if they get let off. And even if it's a points deduction, it'll probably be 2 or 3, if that. I don't think it's going to be anything serious. But listen, I don't care. It's not my team. And if something happens to them, then it's just more content for us and something to talk about. And for more APOEL fans to get involved. Because I like to hear from APOEL fans, not just Thasso. Let me know. What's going on with your club? Are you Petridis in, Petridis out? What's going to happen? Are you going to raise that 2 million? Are you going to raise 1 million? Are you going to get rid of this debt? How the fuck are you guys going to do it? I need to know. Because Petridis said only 3 or 4 teams in Cyprus are actually financially stable. And the rest are fucked. Well, not fucked to the point where it's over 30 M's, man. I don't know. So, yeah. Any other comments, boys and girls? Anything else you'd like me to talk about? Anything else before I wrap it up? They said about OMONOIA's bricks in 2013. We done the Duvlutka up well. We made digital tickets. Okay. All right, well, listen, they make a joke about things that happened in the past, but karma. This is what happens. It is what it is. It is what it is. And OMONOIA went through something very, very difficult in 2013. But at the same time, it wasn't at this level, was it? It wasn't at their level. If you think about it from a financial element, it wasn't as bad as that. So I'm just interested to see how they're going to get around it. Because let's face it, the protathlima doesn't generate the revenue that other leagues do. So how the fuck are they going to... I don't know. Listen, this is something for Thasso and all the APOEL fans to explain to me because I don't know the situation fully. To be honest, I can't really speak too much about it. But I'm just going by what the guy said. It's a sticky one, man. Anyway, I think that's it for another episode of This is Mappa. So it's going to be a short one because I'm on my ones and there isn't really much to talk about this week. Don't forget to give us a follow on X at This is Mappa. We're on Instagram at This is Mappa. We're on Facebook. We're on... The main difference is that I'm on the thing. Yes, very true. Very true. Forgot about that one. So yeah, don't forget to follow us on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook group page. We have a Discord. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Visit our sponsors, Food from Cyprus, .co.uk. Use the discount code NCN12. You get 12% discount at checkout. And visit also Ask Our Print House, our friend Buffo. Anyway, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in. I will be back very soon. I don't think I'm going to do next week's show, so it's going to be down to Thasso and Pedro. Kalindiki. Hi there, boys and girls. Have a good night or afternoon or whatever it is. Ciao, ciao.